Hello everyone and welcome to the Constructive Criticism Network. This network is here to help you improve at Magic the Gathering at every level. From Pauper Leagues to Top 1000 Mythic, we've got you covered. If you want to hear the entire network, head on over to our sponsor at puremtgo.com, where you can hear each and every show, each and every week, and check out their sponsor, MTGO Traders, and tell them that the CCMTG Network sent you. Now sit back, enjoy the show. From YouTube, podcasts, and more, here's this week's episode from ConstructiveCriticism.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to an extra special episode of the Common Knowledge Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Christian, and also, as always, I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Colton. This week, you can all hopefully see we have some special guests to commemorate our 100th episode of the Common Knowledge Podcast, Lobbert and Brandon. For those of you who don't know, they were the co-host of this great podcast for most of the time it's been around, and without them, we wouldn't be doing the podcast here for you today. Before we get started, though, I would like to thank our sponsor, Pure MTGO, for their continued support of the podcast, as well as our patrons over on Patreon. If you would like to support the show directly, please make sure to head over to Patreon. We are currently working on updating our Patreon, and hopefully we'll have more info about about new rewards in the coming weeks.
Yep. So just a quick item of business real quick before we do move on. The only thing I just wanted to quickly hit on real quick before we talk more with Brandon and Lobbert here is that the Pauper Showcase qualifier is on Sunday, May 3rd at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you plan on doing that, please get it in your calendars. That's probably one of the biggest MTGO Pauper events going on for a little while. So get your decks ready, play some leagues, find out what you need to do, and hop in and have some fun.
Yeah, and with that, I think we should just go ahead and jump right in to what decks maybe we're testing for it or sort of working on. Colton, what deck are you sort of building right now?
So, as most of you know, I like to do unfair things, and one of the I think underutilized unfair things currently in the Pauper format is Infect. So Christian posted earlier today that he played against a blue-black Pauper Infect deck. So I'm going to be trying to find that if it ever pops up on Goldfish. The biggest thing I'm finding right now is trying to debate whether mono green or blue green is better. I found so far with the mono green Infect deck that you do tend to have slightly better nut draws. You have more consistent turn 3, turn 4 kills. The disadvantage to that deck is, to me, that you get slightly worse creatures, and the fact that you don't get to play really, really good blue cards in your main deck and sideboard, like Spell Pierce or Distortion Strike. And one of the really, really big downsides to me to playing mono green is that Blighted Agent is a really, really good Magic card. Having your Infector not just coming with unblockable is really, really good. Part of the reason I've been playing around with this deck is because I really, really like decks that are kind of do something unfair, and then also decks that can translate across multiple formats. And Infect is one of those decks that you can have like 90 cards or whatever. You can have it all in one deck box, and you can go down to your LGS and be like, oh, we're playing Pauper today. Okay, well, here's all my cards. I'm going to play Pauper Infect. And then, the next day everyone's like, oh, we're playing Modern tonight. Okay, well, let's take the same deck, and take out a couple cards, shuffle it up, and you're playing nearly the same deck. And to me, I really like decks that are versatile like that. Ones that you can play across multiple formats, get really, really, really good at. Because being able to play it well in Modern also really helps you be able to play it well in Pauper and vice versa.
Yeah, for sure. About the blue-black Infect deck, I don't know. Currently, right now, I've been looking up and down Twitter to see if I know anyone that knows my opponent, because I'm pretty sure that they just didn't have their chat up. Because I was like, hey, I do a podcast and we would love to give you credit if we were able to ever talk about this deck, because it was really sweet and also seemed a little bit better than maybe what you would think if you just heard the idea.
Yeah, it definitely sounds interesting.
Anyways, what about you guys? What would you be playing, or have you been playing?
I did want to say something about Infect before we moved on, I know that Deluxikov has put a lot of time into his blue-green list. I think he's last I checked, he was messing around with Unstable Mutation, which was added back when they did the format unification. Have you messed around with Unstable Mutation at all?
That is not a card I currently have played around with. The biggest things that I've been trying to play around with in terms of blue cards is mostly just been protection spells at this point. I think Mutation is a really, really good card, but there's a lot of bolts and edicts floating around the format right now, and I don't really like my creatures getting killed. So I've been trying to like play really good low-costed counters and stuff like that, and protection spells to help keep my dudes alive more often. I've been trying to play blue-green as a slightly slower but more less nut draw but more consistent. You know, be able to kill you on like turn 4 or 5, not turn 3 type of deck that it's a little bit more resilient than just a straight mono green list.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in here real fast for our viewers that maybe don't know what the card does. Unstable Mutation is an enchant aura, and it enchants whatever creature you put it on, and it gives it +3/+3. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to put a -1/-1 counter on it, I believe.
Yeah, it also is for a single blue, so like a lasting +3/+3. Like your creature will eventually die, but if you're playing Infect, the idea is that you played one blue to basically pump your creature enough to kill somebody, and then you have all these resources left to just like protect with vines or whatever. I think it is sweet. I can see why you wouldn't want to play it, since it's not an instant speed spell, and you can basically make up your deck of entirely instant speed spells and make more counterplay.
Yeah. I've been trying to avoid getting edicted, especially because when I've been playing on the other side as the blue-black or the mono-black deck, it's just like Doomblade edict you, and then they're just kind of, well, I'm dead now because I don't have a creature. So, and there's some, I just liked having ways, especially to fight edicts right now, because they're pretty popular.
Is Colony Garden a playable card in that deck, or is it just too slow?
I try to keep the tap lines down to either 2 or 0. I've been playing around with one build that plays 2 Thornwood Falls and one that plays all basics, just because slowing down a turn, especially with decks like Boros and Burn being really popular, it's not always good to have a turn 1 or turn 2 tap line when you can be trying to get your Glistener Elf in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, see, I don't know. That's something that's super interesting to me, because like I think that like maybe if there are a lot of like lightning bolts or like cards like that, then maybe you would like be more fine with like a tap land or whatever, because like you expect the games to go a little bit longer, so like you have more time to eventually set up. But I don't know. I don't really have much experience playing Infect style decks.
Yeah, Infect is a deck that definitely rewards people that really know the format. It's a deck that can either, if you really know what you're doing, you can just blow people out with it. But if you don't know exactly what you're playing against, you can get really, really punished, because you don't play a lot of creatures, and they're pretty vulnerable to removal, which is, I think, part of the reason why like Bogles is really popular over Infect, because a Bogle is a lot more difficult to remove than your Infector, and it can go a little bit of a longer game, which is what Pauper tends to be more about, is going a little bit longer and grindier than just turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. So,
alrighty.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So what do you two fine gentlemen working on these days?
You want to go ahead, Brandon?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. As listeners who are familiar with Sean and I know, I'm not the brewer, so I'm probably just going to try to play a pretty meta deck. And my thinking was Burn. You know, Burn seems good. I like playing Burn. I've played a lot of Burn, but I'm just not convinced that deck's very good right now. There is so much life gain running around in sideboards and in main decks, and you just don't have a good Tron matchup, which is the reason why I would play Burn to begin with. And Sean's like this, like, I don't believe you. But I lose to Tron almost every time I play.
Tron is like the only deck I feel like I can beat with Burn these days.
Well, I guess you guys are luckier than I am. I don't know. They just always have Weather the Storm and just counter spells.
I've just been lucky and mulling into turn 2 Curse of the Pierced Heart. Go ahead and lock me out of the game.
Doesn't do it. Even that doesn't do it. I've played turn 2 Curse of the Pierced Heart many times against Tron, and game 1 that might get you there, but game 2 their deck is just full of Hydroblasts and Blue Blasts, and like main deck Weather the Storm is just ridiculous. You'll get them down to like 3 life, and then they'll just like do their bull crap, cast Weather the Storm, and they're at 15 again. I don't know. It's just not. It's a rough matchup.
I mean, I don't mean to. I didn't make that face to be like.
No, I know.
Oh no. Gosh. But right before, like, end of December, start of January I was trying to figure this out because I was playing Burn a lot, and some of the things I was saying, people were disagreeing with, like, vehemently on Reddit, like whether land destruction was good against Tron or not, or what to bring in instead. Do you go with like just Smash to Smithereens? Somebody was saying Keldon Marauders was even better than land destruction, and I have my answer, but I don't think that everybody else has the same answer. I think it's all over the board right now. So it's not an easy decision. So I think when decisions are hard, that usually means that you have 2 bad choices. And so I don't think that Burn is just like an auto win against Tron. It's one of the matchups that has game against Tron, and I have a positive win rate against them playing Burn, but it's not more than like 5%.
Oh, I feel like it's even closer than that. I mean, the game 1 win percentage is very high. You win a lot of your game 1s, and then they sideboard against you, and things get really tough. And I've tried a lot of different things in my sideboard. I've tried Firebrand Archers, I've tried Keldon Marauders, I've tried the Land Destruction, I've tried all in on Smash to Smithereens. I've tried it all, and Tron's just too good. Honestly, I'm probably just going to bite the bullet and play Tron because I'm sick of losing to it. And if you can't beat them, join them, right?
Yeah.
It's just such a good deck. You get this mana engine, right, where you just have so much mana and you can make any color of mana so easily. And there's just so many powerful tools, and Tron has access to all of them. Powerful threats, counter magic, life gain. You name it, Tron has access to it. It just makes it such a powerful just package of cards.
Yeah, Tron being really good is part of the reason why I've been trying out more Infect. Just because, well, for one, you can sometimes just can nut draw them, and that sometimes, especially in game 1, is just good enough. And being able to ignore their life gain spells is really, really good right now, I think, especially since Weather the Storm is everywhere. Every single green deck has 2 of Weather the Storm in the 75 somewhere. That's kind of I've been on there.
Like back when I was trying to make this decision, it was between 1 and 2, and then I think Burn really picked up in popularity, and then it went 2 to 3, and even that 1, on average, bumping up 1 that's enough to really hurt a deck's win percentage.
Yeah, Burn is one of those decks I feel like it has a there's decks in the format like Delver that will just always just kind of be where it is forever, pretty much. It's gonna go up like a tiny bit, it'll go down a little tiny bit, but it's always just gonna kind of stay flat. Burn is one of those decks that can either do really, really well or really, really awful. And right now it's kind of really, it's in like one of the bottoms, really, really awful.
Yeah, I feel like, I was probably being a little hyperbolic, but it does have game against Tron, like Sean said, but playing a deck that, is maybe 50-50 against the best deck in the format and then a dog to almost everything else, just not a good place. Not a good place to be. But in the line of, like, in the vein of Delver decks, like what you said, how Delver's kind of always a consistent strategy. I find it interesting that usually fluctuates with the meta, like what breed of Delver is the best right now. So, like, you're seeing blue-red is kind of dropping off the charts. Like, that deck's, I think Lightning Bolt is really poorly positioned right now. And so you're seeing a lot of mono blue, and then you're seeing blue black. And I feel like blue black actually is a really good choice if you want to play Delver and have game against Tron. This deck can power out Gurmag Angler pretty fast. And Gurmag Angler is just such a potent threat that, it's just really good everywhere. Yeah. Like, very, very, very few decks have ways to answer turn 3 Gurmag Angler. If Tron can slow you down with Stoneheart Dignitary, then Dinrova Horde just ruins your life. But against, like, the rest of the meta, there are very few answers to a fast Gurmag Angler. And so that actually really incentivizes, if you want to play a Delver of Secret stack, I highly recommend blue-black right now.
Yeah, I've been on blue-red for pretty much forever just because I feel like Skred is one of the more undervalued cards in the format, especially in red decks. Red decks being able to hit, 4 or 5 toughness creatures has always been kind of a struggle. And being able to, if you need to, especially against the slower decks, I've killed Gurmag Anglers with Skred, but I feel like Skred is like, I don't know, it's like okay, but it's not great. And having a 5/5 to back up your 3/2 flyers is pretty big game. And black removal spells right now are extremely good.
Yeah, I think if you like blue-red too, another strong choice in removal spells, there's usually like a space for one flex slot removal spell. And I've been playing Magmatic Sinkhole in my blue-red Delver decks lately. That's the 5 in a red delve, deal 5 damage to a creature. So a lot of times that's just like 1 or 2 mana 5 damage, and that's been really strong too. Especially as a way to kill not just Gurmag Anglers, but you can kill Mnemonic Walls, some of those really big things that normally get out of your way. I've been able to kill that stupid is it a 0/4? A 0/3? I don't know. The thing that gains life from the...
No.
Huh?
Okay.
No, not Trailblazer. Oh, no, you don't kill a Trailblazer.
Yeah, I was like, what?
By the time you can delve a Magmatic Sinkhole, the Trailblazer's like got 10 toughness or something outrageous. No, the one out of Familiars. The Pharaoh's thing?
Oh, God Pharaoh's Pharaoh.
Yep. Although the 0/4 that gains you life or whatever?
Yeah.
Ugh,
that card can be pretty problematic when you're trying to race the Familiars deck. And, just having an extra way to kill that has been really nice too. So I'm really high on Magmatic Sinkhole if blue-red is the direction you want to be.
Yeah, I've been trying to debate because there's the new one that just came out in Ikoria, the one that's like 3 in a blue, but if you have a flyer, it costs 2 less, and it like bounces a creature, draw a card, but it's a sorcery. I've also seen a lot of people are playing like just like infinite snaps right now. I used to be really, really high on
Vapor Snag.
Yeah, Vapor Snag. I'm glad you remember the card, Christian, because I don't remember it. Just because of the versatility of the card, but I think that card's stock has just kind of plummeted into oblivion recently, especially with Tron. It's like, oh no, you're going to reset their Dunroven Horror. What are they going to do now? So yeah, I'm still like trying to play around with Delver, but mostly I think just having like the black spells that can just kill everything, and having some of the black sideboard cards are just really good right now, I think.
I don't know. I have also been like sort of toying around. Like you said, Brandon, like Gurmag Angler is really good. So I've been playing a Gurmag Angler that the red black reanimator deck. Um, and with that, I started off like not doing well at all whenever I was playing it, like just like mulligan to like exhume, like or whatever, because like I found that like I would mulligan like way too much and like keep bad hands. But I've been having a lot of success with it recently once I started treating it more of like a deck that's just like going to eventually put something busted in play, like a Greater Sandworm or an Ulamog's Crusher. So like I've been toying around with like a lot of like Fire Prophecy, which is the new 2-mana removal spell that deals 3 damage to something and then cycles a card away from your hand. But then like even just like being able to just like play a Stinkweed Imp every turn is actually just really good against certain decks. And then just like having the finisher of like you just get to play like your Gurmag Angler or Ulamog's Crusher and win the game really quickly seems good. So that's another deck you could consider if you were also pretty high on like Gurmag Angler style decks or threats like that, but wanted to do something a little bit more out of the box that maybe your opponents wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I've been trying to play red black. I actually played it on stream on Saturday, and the original list I had felt super busted, but I was just trying to. It was like a turbo reanimator deck with Gurmags as another way to just dump a big dude into play, just because Wizards has printed a whole bunch of really, really good rummage spells recently, like Thrill of Possibility and Haggle and stuff like that. And all those combined with neonates, I would be hoping that, oh, I can stick like a 2, like the 2/3 plus the 1 plus, or like one of the insolent neonates is kind of the edict protection, because that's one of the biggest issues I've had playing the deck previously. And then I was not able to get Lotus Petals for the stream, and the deck ended up being really, really bad without as just like a turbo deck without the fast mana, because yeah, Lotus Petals were like 19 ticks a piece, and I was like, ooh, yeah, we ain't about that life right now. So I'm trying it with Spirit Guides now instead to see if that will help turbo it out, but we'll see if we can play like a fairer deck, or just like a fairer Christian deck, or Christian style like mid range, or just like something super busted, because getting like a turn 2 Ulamog's Crusher, especially against a deck like Tron, is just game over. They can't do anything.
So I will say that even in the like slower builds, I still think Lotus Petal is like somewhat important, because for your Gurmag Anglers, it represents 2 mana, right? Of just like play this and then you can just delve it, and so like it still lets you get the like turn 3 or turn 4 Gurmag Angler, which is still just good enough a lot of the time. Like I don't know, I've been recently rejecting the notion that like even against Tron, like you need this thing like turn 2 or turn 3 to like win the game, so long as like you have stuff to sort of slow them down until you get to that point.
Yeah, that's kind of where I've been at. I've been trying Spirit Guides, and the issue with Spirit Guides is they exile so they don't feed Gurmag Angler, and they can only make red mana, and sometimes they really, really just want the 1 black mana to play Exhume, but I don't know. I think the deck certainly has legs, especially in a format with Tron just kind of everywhere, just because, play big thing, go beat, smack, annihilate your lands is pretty good against the deck that just wants to play a lot of lands.
If you can attack.
If you can attack, yes.
Yeah. If they allow you.
So, yeah, the other thing I've been trying to play around with has been machine gun style decks. Just because I figure, if Tron's everywhere, why try to attack them when you can just keep tapping a Thermal Alchemist over and over again and kill them that way? But I just tried like a straight, almost a modern Storm Shell on Saturday, and that did not go so well. So I'm probably just gonna try to play it as like a counter burn deck and see if that can do anything, especially with like Boros just being able to smack you for a ton of damage really quickly, and having a good amount of disruption, and Tron being Tron, doing Tron things. But I don't know. We'll see how this all goes. I really just want to find something that can just beat on Tron.
Don't we all?
I have been playing a deck that does beat on Tron, but it loses to everything else, so that's
Oh no!
Probably not very helpful. I've still been testing my mill deck. My buddy asked me to build it for him, so I put it together for him, and he's been testing that against all of my brews I have built, and then I've actually put together a couple of like meta decks. I've put together Stompy and Burn for him to play against. It does lose against all of the aggressive decks like Boggles and things like that, Elves, but it really doesn't ever lose games against Tron. We've found that like we've been able to do well. I've swapped out. I had Fathom Seers in there before, and now we've been trying out the Mystic Sanctuary package, and that has been a huge leap forward. We're able to play foil again in the list. That's always great. I mean, I have a whole list of stuff I've been doing here. Since I haven't been on the podcast, I have had just ample time to just brew and put stuff together. I updated, I think it was like 50 something cards in my cube, and we're up to I think 93% foil in that. I did the math and it's like $600. I think it's less than that now because I did buy a little bit more, but it's like $400 or $500 to finish out those last like 18 cards because it's like foil gushes and stuff.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then I don't know if any of you have seen it, but I did post a list with my white attack build. It's basically white deck wins. And somebody put that in the comments, and I was just like, missed opportunity for a name there. It just uses. You guys familiar with Hero of the Pride? The colorless and a white. It's colorless and a white for a 2/2 creature. It basically has heroic, where every time you target it, it gives your whole team +1/+0, including itself. So I've been using like mutagenics. I think Defiant Strike is the one that draws you cards, and what's his name? Sin City MTG told me put Sentinel's Eyes in there, and that has been fantastic. So it's very, very hyper aggressive. Mana Tithe out of the board is how I deal with Tron. And I just consistently went on turn 4.
Get him with the Force Spike.
Have you thought about playing around with the new card that like you gain life as one of the modes, and then the other mode is like a +1/+1 counter on a creature, or exile or destroy an enchantment? Maybe it's either destroy or exile.
Yeah, it is. You got that exactly right, I think. I posted the video before that came out, but yes, I'm trying to play around with like, is it more important than Hallow? Hallow being basically it counters their spell and draws or gains you the life that their damage spell would have done. And it's between those two. I really, really like that it's got that +1/+1. That's just. Is it a counter or just until end of turn? I think it is until end of turn, right?
No, it's a counter, I think.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, that card is really, really silly. And it's really good, especially if you're playing a mono white deck against like the Bogos deck, where they're like one land, where they're like one forest plus a Utopia Sprawl, and they're like, okay, turn 1 Utopia Sprawl, and you just like blow it up, and they're like, oh, now I can't do anything for the rest of the game. Seems pretty good.
Except I have the kind of non-problem of I'm really not that great at building sideboards, and that's gonna free up a whole like 3 slots. I did listen to one of your past episodes where you're saying like that sideboard slots 16, 17, and it really does feel like I have 3 slots that I can cut. So I feel like I have 18 slots in my board now and no idea what to do with them.
If you're playing blue, play Blast. If you're playing red, play Blast.
Mono white though.
So
Mono white's like sideboard is. It's more difficult. I feel like.
I don't know. So like part of this, right? Like I would just tell you to play something like Journey to Nowhere, like Oblivion Ring or whatever. But like the card that we're talking about, like makes me want to do that a lot less. So.
Yeah. Speaking of sideboard cards, The biggest thing I think that people should probably be playing right now is really so ways like to fight Tron. I'm still like on the fence of either do you just want to blow up their lands or do something else? And I think depending on like what deck you're playing, sometimes you can do one or the other, sometimes you can do both. I really, really, really like having just repeatable ways to just drain them out slowly. So like one of my cards when I first started playing Pauper that I like was like this card's garbage. I hate this card so much, and now I'm like, wow, this card's actually really, really good. Is Evan Card's Justice? Because wow, I have just blown people out with that card. It is so good. I was like, why do people not play more of this card? It's such a blowout against so many decks, and I think I'm just like, wow, this card is really insane. And I've also been toying around with the idea of actually playing Curse of the Pierce Heart in sideboards. I know that's weird, but sometimes it's just like, just get that last 3 points of damage through to Tron and they'll die. Or the blue-black deck, or something that's like really, really slow and clunky. Just something that gives like that last couple repeatable points of damage. I don't know. I think that's probably a big. That feels like it's a really big important thing right now. Just ways to continually do damage without having to swing with a creature.
Yeah, I don't know. So specifically about Curse of the Pierced Heart, fighting against Tron, I don't know. I've always like thought that like destroying their lands was sort of like not something that like you wanted to like sideboard into if like you felt like your main point of attack was like good enough, right? Like you just wanted something to like complement it instead of something that does something like else. So like Curse of the Pierced Heart might fit better into some decks as like a sideboard plan against Tron than like just like random land destruction spell. But I know that there are like a lot of like schools of thought on how to fight against that deck. What do you guys think?
I was going through these notes before the show, and I decided to go through the top 10-ish decks and just kind of see like if I was using their sideboard, which pieces fight Tron. And the only one with non-combat damage was Burn in 2 Firebrand Archers. The rest did have like, it was non-combat damage. It wasn't repeatable. It was things like let me see. Boros Bully does have 3 Molten Rains, a lot of Red Elemental Blasts, and Relic. I'm not sure if they bring in Relic. It's probably just I would expect maybe Molten Rains, depending on the person's school of thought. I'm still not sure on that. Then the Red Blasts, and then keep everything the same just to go as fast as possible. Blue had literally nothing. It's just like, I don't care. I'm going to counter your spell. No big deal. Black was the one I was really surprised about, and one I maybe want to talk the most about, because it did have a lot of land destruction in it as well, and I wasn't sure if that was for that or like Boros Monarch or things with like bounce lands, because I've been told so many times like they're just going to ghostly flicker their land. They're just going to be able to pull some Ross of that back, and you're basically helping them out by trying to destroy their land. They don't care. But I'm looking around. There's so much land destruction right now.
Yeah, I'm really, really big on the ones that can also not only destroy the land, but can deal some direct damage too. Because like Molten Rain, cool, they get their land back if they eventually down the line can try to pulse it, or they can try, other things to get it back. But they're also just took 2 points of damage too, and sometimes that's just fast enough just to get in there. Sometimes that's really all you need to go along with it. Just the way I think you stop the deck is you have to disrupt it and then also try to pressure it at the same time. I feel like Tron is a combo deck almost.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I was going to say. So in the context of like Boros Bully or Boros Monarch, I really don't like Molten Rain against Tron, because you're not fast enough to capitalize on killing that land. So it's like, yeah, you'll kill that land, but Sean made the point of you just help them because now they have a Pulse Marasa target, and you turn that on for them. And you're not fast enough to keep them off of Pulse Marasa being relevant. Mm-hmm. And so I personally think Molten Rain is fine in Burn, because you're putting so much pressure on them that, killing that that land. And honestly, I almost never target Tron lands when I'm playing Burn. I'm targeting their Thornwood Falls, and I'm targeting their whatever filter land they play now. There's so many.
Yeah, the
Cave of Temptation, is that the current one?
Yeah, the one that
It
gives
was
you can make
Shimmering
turn-into
Grotto and Cave of whichever one they're on now. That's the one I want to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I very rarely target the actual Tron lands because I don't care if they have 60 colorless mana. They're not casting Karn or Ugin. You know, they need blue-black to make Dinrova Horror. So I'm targeting their lands that make mana to slow them down enough to keep them off of their blue blasts and whatnot so that I can finish them off.
Yeah.
Whenever you play Burn, do you ever consider bringing in the like Artifact Fate or whatever that also deals damage? I think it's called like Smash to Smithereens.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because again, like I said, it's so important to keep them off their colored mana, and the Prophetic Prism is one of their best ways to make that mana. So, you know, I've always, sometimes it's dead in your hand, which sucks, you know. I've had games where I draw like 2 or 3 of them, so maybe you don't want to board in a full 4 against Tron, just because they don't have a lot of artifacts you super care about killing besides the prisms. So, but yeah, they're super important. I found in that plan of keeping them off that colored mana and you know, trying to attack their fixing and capitalize on your speed, being able to pressure them with G2 Lava Runners and Lightning Bolts and stuff like that.
Yeah. I've also seen one of the big sideboard cards that people have been talking about on Twitter is the new discard spell from Ikoria. It's 2 and a black.
Which card?
It's I think it's like Memory something. I don't remember what it's called, but it's 2 and a black, and it has cycling 2, and target opponent reveals their hand and you exile a card from it. And the reason people have been on this card is because if you take away like the Ghostly Flicker, or you take away the wall or whatever, then it's gone forever. They can't just pulse it back.
We've seen Castigate has seen so much play recently.
Yeah. So I've seen people been on that because that means you don't have to play white. You can just, if you're in like the blue-black deck, you can play it. If you're in mono-black, you can play it. You don't have to play both black and white in order to play the card.
I had not thought about that, and that's probably going to be in Corrupt Control pretty soon. And I'm going to test that because Tron was the worst matchup. And I just basically stopped playing the deck because I was like, can't beat Tron, not good enough. Let's go somewhere else. But like I've seen how Castigate attacks that deck and how it works, and that's a glimmer of hope. That's all I need to brew.
Yeah. And Castigate is actually another knock against Burn, because if Castigate is good, which it is, it means that black and white decks are good, and that's a lot of random ass life gain in those stupid decks. So,
and a lot of pestilences.
It's a matchup for Burn though.
It's a close one. It just depends on how much random life gain they draw,
and how greedy they are with Pestilence.
I'm assuming they never activate Pestilence, but that is one of the decks that is susceptible to all of the land destruction running around right now. Is the black-white deck doing anything right now? Because I can't imagine a world in which that deck even functions with like 3 of the 5 top decks all running land destruction.
I don't think it does. I've just played against it a few times in leagues, and it's just annoying. You know, they castigate your Fire Blast away or your Searing Blaze. Then you have to waste a Lightning Bolt on Seeker of the Way, you know, and then game 2 comes around and they just go like Lone Missionary, Lone Missionary, Lone Missionary, Lone Missionary. It's just annoying, man.
Yeah, the deck is really, I feel like has really, really big game when the meta is a lot of small creature decks, so like elves, burn, stuff like that. And when people are just trying to slam Tron, like a lot of the time it's really good. But against decks like Boros or whatever, they can just generally outvalue that deck. It's just kind of It's just like it can do like okay, or it can do just like it feels like one of those decks that it's either really, really, really good or just absolute garbage tier nonsense in every single matchup, pretty much.
Yeah, and right now there's not a lot of, those little creature decks running around. So, of all those decks that I can think of, I think the best positioned deck right now is Affinity. And, there's just some really big threats in Affinity.
Yeah, and Fling is a really, really good Magic card.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the decks I've been playing a lot, and I've been playing it on stream a lot. And it's great when I remember which one is TBR, T-Burn Battle Rage, and which is Fling, and how I can remember how to use ATOG correctly. Then the deck is great. When I forget which one is which, then the deck is terrible. I sack my whole board for nothing. I have done that more than once, but that's also won me a lot of games. So I think Affinity is really, really well positioned right now too.
Yeah, and I've lost a lot of races with Burn to, I was on the play and they made turn 1 or turn 2 ATOG, and you're sit there faced with the question of like, do I waste a removal spell on this and make them sack artifacts right now? So I don't die like the next turn. And then they still somehow just find a way to just like on the very last minute. I think so. The funniest one I had, I took a screenshot of it. They were at like 4, right? I bolted them or lava spiked them or whatever, passed the turn, and just had my fingers crossed, like please don't have it. Put my Curse of the Pierce Heart trigger on the stack to kill them. They were at 1, and in response to the trigger, they flung me to death.
Yeah, that deck has the really, really big gotcha factor. I played that deck against Naya Slivers a couple weeks ago, and the dude just went like turn 4 was empty-handed, just massive board, and I was like, crap, I'm so dead. But I've been playing around a lot with the Witching Well, because I feel like that card's been a really, really big upgrade for the deck, because I feel like the deck's biggest weakness is its clunk. Just the sheer amount of clunk that deck has sometimes is just awful, and being able to smooth out your draws for 1 blue mana is really, really good. And so I went Witching Well into ATOG, and I was like, I cracked the Witching. I think I cracked the Witching Well or something, and I was like ATOG into TBR and Tamer Battle Rage into Fling, and I was like, this seems pretty good. So I whacked them for like, because of course I'm just like swing with the ATOG, and they're like, okay, and they like double block or whatever, and I TBR them for like 12 damage and then fling it for the rest, and I was like, cool, this is fun. And then next game I just like turn 4 flung them, and they're like, what just happened?
I'm not super familiar with the Affinity list. I don't really keep up with that archetype, but is Navigator's Compass kind of the new mainstay? Like, has that just replaced Springleaf Drum?
No.
Or are that playing alongside?
No, I don't really play it. I think it's like an okay card. Springleaf Drum.
I've seen a lot of Navigator's Compass in lists recently.
Yeah,
like a lot.
So people are in two schools right now. They're either playing Witching Wells or playing Navigator's Compass, pretty much. The Navigator's Compass gives you more consistent mana, but the Witching Well gives you more consistent draws.
Yeah, and it's card advantage against burn.
It's the Witching Well is also just card advantage against slower decks in general.
Compass. Navigator's
Compass is,
It's card advantage against burn.
Yeah, I feel like when burn is really, really good, when the fast aggro decks are really good, Navigator's Compass is better. But where the format's kind of like slower and dirtlier like it is right now, being able to have like that scry 2 that can later down in the game just draw you 2 cards for 4 mana and sacking it, which is not that hard, is really, really good. So I've been in the Witching Well camp, but I know some people are also in the Navigator's Compass camp.
Yeah, so if I were to play the deck, I would probably find a way to play both. But Navigator's Compass seems really huge to me because one of the things that I like the most about Affinity is that like it's like usually like a teamer deck, right? That just gets to play the other 2 colors in its sideboard sometimes. And that's what I really like about Navigator's Compass, right? Is that like if I want to, like I can play like Reaping the Graves in my sideboard, right? And it's perfectly reasonable and it's a good card in certain matchups. Or the like Leave No Trace, right? Is that the white enchantment removal spell? Yeah, it is. Like that card is just like incredibly nuts, and like Navigator's Compass just fixes your mana in the same way that like Tron, right, gets to like really be a 3-color deck that just so happens to play like 1 or 2 cards from the other 2 colors.
Yeah, it really depends to me on like what you're expecting to face. I really like the Witching Wells against decks that are trying to just grind you out a little bit more because it gives you more opportunities to grind a little bit. But Compass is really, really good if you're trying to find like if you have like really, really good Silver Bullet sideboard cards, or if you're just trying to like straight race people. If you're just trying to straight race people, Navigator's Compass is really, really great because it gives you the opportunity to dump your hand a lot more easily. Because with Affinity, the biggest issue I have sometimes you're just like stuck with the wrong colors, and that's just how it is. And Compass can really smooth that out. But the downside to that is sometimes you just dump things too quickly, and you can lose on the backswing, or you just don't have you come up just barely short. So yeah, that's kind of like the two big schools of thought right now with Affinity. I felt like the deck almost kind of died for a little while, but I feel like the deck, because it's I really like playing the deck against Tron just because you have flings and you have blast to kind of like protect your combo, and you can just like dump your hand on turn 3, swing for a bunch of damage before they can set up their Stonehorn Dignitary lock, and you also just have the opportunity to just combo them. But the deck is definitely really, really weak to some of the other decks in the format, especially those that are playing a lot of red. You just sometimes just scoop it up just because they're like, blow up your board, and you're like, well, this sucks. I guess next game. But Gorilla Shaman's been on the low, I think, for a while. So I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing more affinities, because there's less Gorilla Shamans blowing up lands and blowing up your 1-mana artifacts than there was previously.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Affinity is a really good deck that also gets a nice bump because I think we like sort of mentioned it, or at least skirted around it, that people have a really tough time playing against that deck and figuring out like the right ways to approach the matchup. So like it's a confusing deck to play against, and like I know that I struggle with it too. That like it's just weird that like you're expecting like Atog Fling, right? So like you like keep a hand good against that, and they play like a 2-mana 4/4 or whatever, and then you're like, oh man, what do I do? That's not what my hand is good against, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Affinity deck has a really big gotcha factor. I feel like it has two solid game plans that can go after, and you don't know which one you're going to come up against. But at the same time, that also means the deck has a lot of clunk, where you find one Atog and no fling, or you find a fling and your hand's full of Frogmites. So there is always that trade off too. Fling plus Frogmite is not a really good combo.
Yeah, but anyways, I think that we sort of covered like all the like top decks in the meta, as well as like some fringe decks. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to talk about or anything?
Yeah, shortly. I guess I haven't listened to your set review, but I have been seeing a lot of mutate creatures being tested out, and I have been really surprised at how good they are. Like there was the big guy with Menace. I think it's a 4/4 that when you mutate, you make your opponent discard a card. So it's card neutral. It has that effect when it comes in. It has the effect of making a dude a 4/4. Oh, with Menace. It's a 4/4 with Menace. So my opponent was throwing it on like the 1/1 with haste and lifelink. And I was just like, I was playing some jank brew, but I was just like, I was not prepared for this. And so that guy's been good. The green guy that has been really good. I've both played with it and against it. It's the you can mutate it for 4. It turns your guy into a 3/4, and it gets you a basic land. So I think the ones that have some effect that replace the card in your hand, so that you're not just combining 2 creatures and then you only have 1. I don't know. I've been impressed with that effect, and it also has those bonuses of like, I wasn't convinced on it until I went through and read the rulings on it of like, if your creature goes to if the creature that it's targeting goes to the graveyard, you still get the creature. If your creature is bounced, I think just everything goes back to your hand. Mm-hmm. So I've been really impressed with that, and I originally didn't think I would be.
Yeah, I haven't really tested those too much yet, just mostly because of the confusion factor. I'm just still trying to figure out, like, okay, what does this go in? What do I want to do with it? Like, how effectively costed is it? Most of the cards we covered, I don't think we covered any mutate cards personally. Most of the ones I saw were like, most of the cards that I really liked were really silly cards, like the Scorpion, the 1/2 that when it dies you drain your opponent for 2. And I was like, wow, this card's really silly. And people in Standard are like, wow, this card's really good. And I was like, yeah, draining your opponent for 2 for free is pretty good. So I don't know. I haven't really tried the mutate cards yet. That's something that's on my list to do this week.
Yeah, so the mutate mechanic, I guess, is like confuses me, might be like the wrong way to put it, I guess. It's like one of those things that like I understand why like in theory it's powerful, but like I'm also just like super scared to try it, because like mutating onto something, even if it's like card neutral, right, that like they like have to discard a card or whatever, but then like if they just like edict you and like you really lose 2 cards there, like that's something that like sort of like turned me off of the mechanic. But I'm hopeful that like my initial thoughts on it were wrong, because I think that it's like a super interesting design space and I like it. So I hope that it ends up being like not just sort of good, but like really good, especially in this format.
I think it is in the camp of sort of good right now. I can't think of anything to do with even the ones that I've been impressed by that would take it to that next level. I don't follow upcoming things well enough to know. Are they putting this in another set? Does anybody know?
Nothing's been confirmed about it yet.
Yeah, I don't think there are any like stated intentions, but
I don't know. You never know what R&D is going to do these days.
Well, we're one step closer to getting creature fusion spells from Yu-Gi-Oh, so I think we're all a little happier.
You've activated my trap card, Lobbert. And we get to play Commander in 60 card now, so there is that.
I don't know. Like the fact that they went like
that. Companions have ruined Magic. Not Pauper though. No companions, no planeswalkers. That's why Pauper's the best format.
Best format.
Getting turn 1 guy rooted, not getting turn 1 guy rooted is really, really great. Let me tell you, because that is some nonsense that I've been seeing in Legacy.
Yeah. I mean, the Garuda, we're gonna get off topic from Pauper, but like the Garuda deck in Legacy is like super glass cannon-y, just like falls apart to a force of will in the right place. But the Lurus, that one in Legacy as a companion is stupid.
Oh, I've seen the
just like all these dumb Delver decks splashing black so they can play Lurus as their companion.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've seen that card in literally everything. It's been in Shadow. It's been in Burn. I see people playing Mishra's Baubles in Burn just so they can play Lurus and draw a steady stream of cards each turn for free.
Yeah, it's been insane.
2 things. 1, I don't know what you're talking about. And 2, did it play That's Not Pauper for you guys? Because it didn't on my end.
We didn't hear it.
Broken. It's been too long since I've used my soundboard. Anyway, That's Not Pauper.
That's not Pauper.
Thank goodness those cards do not exist in this format. I'm pretty glad for that. I feel like Pauper has been the format that has been least thrown to the wind this set, and for that I am grateful.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's sometimes it's a curse, but it's usually a blessing that like whatever is like sort of being pushed by wizards, like sometimes just misses the format completely. So, but anyways, was there anything else that anyone wanted to cover?
All right, so before you guys go today, we do have something for you. If you give me one moment. So, Spencer and us, we made this little video for you guys, just as kind of a thank you for all of that you've done for the Pauper community and for Christian and I for getting this podcast going to the point where we can have this 100 episode isolation celebration, as I like to call it right now. And so we made a little video for you guys. So if you give me 1 minute, I'll get it pulled up so you guys can watch it. So the TLDR of the video, well, let me pop back in here. So the TLDR of the video that Spencer wanted us to let you guys know is that for both of your hard work on this great podcast, he wanted to offer each of you $100 in credit towards MTGO Traders or to Oasis, whichever you would prefer. He says he's got it covered. Just reach out and let him know whichever of the two he would like. And it was just his and our way of just saying thank you for all the work that you two have done on this podcast.
Wow, thank you.
That's amazing. I was not expecting that.
No,
yeah, thank you.
Not at all.
Yeah, you guys are super welcome. And, thanks to Spencer for that. It was, him putting all that together.
Thanks, Spencer.
Thanks, Spencer.
Spencer, mob boss.
No, yeah. I think I can speak for Sean here. Just say that we're both super grateful that that the show's able to go on. I know that was something that carried it for a while, despite everything happening in Sean and I's life, that we loved the show. We didn't want it to end, but, our real lives got in the way and it couldn't go on. And I know for me, that was what I was most disappointed about, was the show ending. And so I'm super happy that you guys are able to continue the show and continue to foster the community that Sean and I, were a part of. And that's just really awesome. So thank you to you guys.
Yeah, we really hope we can continue your guys' legacy on this show of #always improving.
I felt like there would have been I feel like there would have been a real void left. Like, there's not that much Pauper content, and I really took pride in that I was contributing to that. I'm still contributing a tiny bit, but it's not like anywhere near the regular content that a podcast requires. So I do want to let people know that I do still listen and that it's a good show. And I mean, they're already listening, so that you've already got them, but I do plan on retweeting this and trying to get the word out there that show's still going and it's still great.
We try our best. Hey everyone, it's Colton here. As you could probably tell on the podcast, it ended a little abruptly and without our typical outro. Unfortunately, those last couple of minutes were not picked up by OBS on the recording. So I'm just going to go ahead and, thank you guys so much for listening. And thanks so much to Sean and Brandon for coming on the show. I'm going to try to, for the video, it didn't come through, as you could probably tell in the editing. So I'm going to attempt to leave it in the description if possible, or find a link, and we'll make sure that, you guys can, if you would like, can probably see it. I may post the audio on Patreon or something. I haven't quite decided yet, but yeah, thanks again. And if you guys would like, you can always follow me at SnapBoltBaral, or you can follow Christian over on Twitter at JessGuyDad. And please, if you do have any questions about the format or about MTGO, paper, or whatever you would like, please email us at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. Link, of course, is in the description. And thanks so much again to our sponsors at puremtgo.com. It's a great resource. If you ever want to read up on Pauper or any other format, please head over and check them out. And we're so grateful to be part of the Constructive Criticism Network. And thanks so much, and always continue to be excellent to each other.